Do you want armor on Taric or on a unit he is protecting? Is Def's Defiance a hard counter against Kalista? And can Kled proc his passive with Hurricane? Welcome to episode number 4 of the TFT Mythbuster series. Let's get started. For our first myth, let's take a closer look at a unit that has been causing some problems in the current patch, Taric. Especially before the hotfix, you would see this unit everywhere and players started to wonder how his ability actually works. The myth states, when Taric absorbs damage with his ability, the damage is reduced by his own defensive stats. So in short, the question is, would you rather have a Bramble Vest on Taric or a Bramble Vest on the unit next to Taric? Thankfully, the practice mode is finally back on the PBE, so this setup will be a piece of cake. Here we have a Taric and a Kale against a powerful Jhin. We will check out two fights, one with defensive items on Kale and one with defensive items on Taric. Based on the damage against Taric's shield, we can estimate which defensive stats are relevant to reduce the damage from Jhin's ability. In our first fight, we have a Taric that starts close to full mana and a Kale 1-star with 2 Bramble Vests. When Jhin hits Kale, we can see that Taric not only loses his entire shield, but based on the damage statistic, also received over 200 leftover damage. In our next fight, we are running a naked Kale, but only have 1 Bramble Vest to make sure that the abilities line up again. Even with this item setup, we can see that Taric's shield didn't even break. Jhin did not receive any damage credit at all for his ability. This seems to be a pretty clear-cut case. All the damage will get reduced by Taric his defensive stats, which means if you want to maximize his ability, then he should receive your tank items. For our next myth, let's return to a good old friend Kalista. As a lot of players learned by now, she is not capable of taking items like Protector's Vow or Bloodthirster into account when going for the kill. But does the same apply to the Ornn item Def's Defiance? The myth states, Def's Defiance can prevent Kalista from killing a unit. The way Def's Defiance works is that every time the holder receives damage, they only receive 50% of that damage. The other 50% are added as a damage over time effect that can bring the unit to 1 HP, but is not able to finish the unit off. If the item works against Kalista, then the unit should lose something like half their HP when Kalista pulls out her spears. In this fight, you can see a Kalista 2-star with a Ginzo's Rageblade and an Infinity Force. Her opponent is a Garen 2-star with a Def's Defiance. Kalista is stacking her spears until she finally gets into kill range, and we can see that Garen does not survive her rend. Every spear deals 32 true damage, and she impaled Garen with a total of 27 spears. This lines up with the HP values when Garen gets killed, which means that Def's Defiance did not help Garen to survive in any meaningful way outside of reducing the damage from her auto attacks. For our final myth, let's take a look at Kled. I've been trying some stuff with this guy for a bit. I mainly like the idea of a comp called Kled that is based around utilizing a Deadeye emblem and his passive to execute enemies below 25% HP. Outside of the Deadeye emblem, I was wondering if other items would work as well. The myth states, Kled 4-star can execute enemies with Hurricane bolts. If this works, it would honestly be a very interesting item build. Let's create a setup with a Kled 4-star that is holding several Hurricanes and put him up against a tanky frontline with a bunch of squishy backliners. In this fight, while he is hacking and slaying against Sejuani, we can see all the Hurricane bolts flying into the enemy backline. Watching the fight, it does become quite obvious that this interaction does in fact not work. All the units are taken out simply by the Hurricane damage. There are no visible true damage procs until he finally gets Sejuani into range. Interestingly enough, you can execute enemies with the help of Hurricane if you combine it with a gold collector. Apparently that is an intended interaction, but I guess Kled is not supposed to make use of the same mechanic. 3 more myths down and many more to go. Thankfully, with the return of the practice mode, testing myths will become easier from here on out, so look forward to more juicy interactions in the future. I hope you learned something and see you next time.